in just a second. We've got an exciting matchup to show on stream. What do we got coming, Blake?
We have an Iyslander from San Diego named Alan C., which you remember him from the Bolton days. He maybe has been like, I don't really like playing Bolton into ice. Nobody really does. So he has been doing Iyslander for a solid maybe 4 or 5 months.
Yep.
And then we've got the young upstart who just came to our game recently, came to Odyssey, was like, I want to play this game. Jacob Bertrand's playing Phi. He ended up leaving his deck at his house. So he's ripping some new Phi lists that he's trying for the first time. So we're like, let's see how he can improvise. He is good at improvising, though, I've heard.
Nice. Yeah, Alan has been a true believer in Bolton for a long time, would just come in top 8 many events, even though everyone said Bolton wasn't good enough to do that. He is just shown that if you're good enough at a deck, you can win games. But like you said, it's pretty bad in ice, so if you can't beat him, you join him, and Alan on Iyslander is honestly a bit scary, so excited to see this matchup. It should be interesting and hopefully not too short, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I think it'll be a long slog, actually.
You think it's going to slog? All right.
I think what's interesting about Alan, what I've heard people say about him, is he plays his deck as fast as he plays an aggro deck. Like, the decision tree in his mind is, I already know this. I know what we're doing. Here we go. Maybe a good thing about Jacob leaving his deck at home is he normally plays Kodachi Phi, which I think would be way worse into Iyslander. Yeah. So maybe there's a chance of, like, yes, my Emberblade costs 3, but that's better than my Kodachi's costing 2 each. That math looks bad.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a big fan of the Kodachi Phi. I think Emberblade is just better, but I understand the thought process behind it. But we'll see what it does. It definitely will be a challenge playing a deck he hasn't piloted as much, but it's Phi. It should be mostly the same, I think. And
I think the real question is how much AB is he going to flip over, and then we'll be like, ooh, here we go.
What do you think? 1,
I'm gonna
2, 0.
I think it has to be 3 if you don't know what deck you're doing, but if the deck doesn't have it and you're just doing 1, here we go, right?
Let's jump right in.
Oh, that looks like a Tide Flipper for sure down below. Yeah, so Tide Flipper means 1 AB.
Is that Tide Flippers?
It is, yeah. It's got that blue background, even though there's some glare on it right now.
Isn't there that other one?
It's not Breeze Rider Boots. If it's Breeze Rider Boots, good luck.
Okay, yeah, I think they're Tide Flippers, yeah. A little bit of glare there, but not too bad. Ooh, and we've got the signed Phi card. That'll bring him some extra spice. I didn't see who won the dice roll.
I think we'll figure out as soon as Jacob plays a card, because I think he's first.
Jacob is playing. So he's got the mask.
Oh, yeah, we got a tunic counter already. So
pouncing links, so he's looking to combo off a bit here. Pretty standard tunic, Tiger Stripe Shuko, and the Tide Flippers. So nothing.
Pride of San Diego versus Pride of Hollywood.
Boom.
Let's do it for round 1.
For round 1. Only in Los Angeles / adjacent areas.
I think I don't think he's reading some of these cards for the first time. I think he plays most of these cards in his other deck. I think drawing another Phoenix Flame at the beginning of the game is kind of interesting, because maybe you just jam that in your arsenal and wait for a bigger turn later. An Energy Potion right away, I think, is a very good first turn play of Energy Potion pass Arsenal. Yeah. Arsenal pass, I think, is the right word.
Yeah, I think, you got to pitch this out of the way. Flame Call Awakening, right? I feel like I would have gone with the branding and then maybe Arsenal that Flame Call Awakening, but just to get that extra value out of. Yeah, that's the one where you search up a Phoenix Flame.
Right. Yeah. I think he wants the Phoenix Flame back in his deck, probably. Okay, so the person who lends him this deck is literally going to be commentating later. He's like, this is the only Phoenix Flame in his deck, so drawing that maybe isn't the greatest. Alan said, great. I'm going to just scar for scar immediately. The best card to get in my opening hand.
It's so good. As much as it pains me that, this wizard deck is just like a mid-range value deck these days, it's also just pretty sweet that it can operate in this level. It just highlights, again, Flesh and Blood as a game, a system where there's so much flexibility in how you can put these decks together and pilot them.
Right.
So
I think what's interesting is Jacob has the Energy Potion, so maybe blocking with a card that he would normally pitch for isn't the worst because he could just energy potion to still have a big turn even after a 3 block. But 40 health to work with, I think most of the time you're just going to be like, take it. Take it. This is a blue Aether Ice Vein, though, fusing, so once again, energy potion's a star here because you can just pitch for 2 from that and just say, I'll take the damage and just keep going with my full hand.
Do you think energy potion is something he wants to save for later in the round, maybe to protect?
I think anytime you have an energy potion, it's kind of like I'm Blizzard. You're not going to hit me with a Blizzard that I won't be able to respond to. You're not going to be able to hit me with, what else is there that would mess with you? Aether Ice Vein, I think, is the main target too.
Yeah.
Especially because you only have 1 AB. Like, anytime someone's going to Aether Ice Vein you, it's like, I'm literally going to lose a card.
Yeah.
Because
Which
there's
is happening right now as he gets Aether Ice Veined.
There's no Oasis in this deck, right? Oasis is not available. That doesn't seem like a fight card, but would help in these exact scenarios if you had it. I think what's interesting is Alan is just like, yeah, let's go. What are you doing over here, bud? And Jacob's like, I don't play against Iyslander in my meta. Odyssey is missing Icelanders.
Alan is a fast player. He slams these cards down, and, you know, it's that thing where, I don't know why the math becomes immediately more difficult as soon as someone is like, here's something you need to think about both blocking and how it'll affect your next turn. But it's a lot.
I think what's nice is we got Jacob laughing, so he's like...
So he can probably hear us.
I'm nervous. He's touching the energy potion. Maybe he's just putting a counter on there because he's like, okay, I do have this available to me. Once again, maybe in his deck for AB he has 3, and he's like, I'm learning on the fly of what 1 AB looks like against Iyslander.
Yeah.
Which, spoiler alert,
It's rough.
not great.
It's going to be rough.
Yeah.
This is the first of as many difficult choices or non-choices that you have of just like, great, well, I'm going to lose a card. Or I'm just going to pop this energy potion and pay the fee.
And that's what he's doing here.
Iyslander gives me
3 damage, but I'm going to use my energy potion to pay so I keep my full hand and hope that card in your arsenal isn't an ice card.
Yeah, it probably is. It's at least a blue, but oh god, he's got a Findel's Fighting Spirit and an Aether Ice Vein in hand, as well as, was it a Blizzard? No, it was the other one.
But I think Fi's major thing he can do is just get through the ice pressure because Belittle Minnowism is always available to these players. There's 0 for 3s out the wazoo. Here's our first 0 for 3. That's going to be a brand of Cinderclaw.
Classic opening card. It's got Go Again. It attacks for 3.
Immediately shows the channel Lake Frigid.
It costs nothing.
And that's going to be a Frostbite because of our hero power. And then everything you do is going to cost 1 more. Jacob's like, great. I was hoping to pay more for my attacks. That's where this deck shines. 0 for 3s are now 1 for 3.
You know, it would make 5 even more fun if all my cards cost something.
Yeah. That Ron and Renegade's going to be not great anymore. I think one of those Spreading Flames will probably go into Arsenal to save for next time to really get a good turn that time. Maybe that's not even Spreading Flames. That looks like Mounting Anger now that I think about
it's Mounting Anger.
Which that's even worse now. I think it's interesting because Fi seems so oppressive until Channel Lake Frigid comes down.
Yeah.
And then you're like, this is a normal hero. Maybe we should have Channel Lake Frigid be accessible for every hero. Maybe make an ice crown that you can be Rhinar and play Channel Lake Frigid. And
yeah, I think the hardest part, at least when I've played Iyslander, is having to not only remember like, okay, I got to pay for Channel Lake Frigid, but then I also got to keep it around next turn, and it can be tricky in remembering which cards to pitch and what your game plan can be, and making sure you even have something to pitch to sometimes to make sure that you get the most value out of Channel Lake Frigid, because getting it out on their turn is super powerful,
right.
But it can fizzle out if all it does is kind of like stop their turn and then you can't do anything and it goes away. It really shines when you can keep it out there for at least 2 turns, or like 2.5 turns, which is
and then
the cool thing.
That's a rough turn for Jacob because he said, let me pitch 2 reds to do 3 damage to you. which does not feel good. But Alan had a floating resource, so he just went ahead and used his arms to block 2 of it.
Nice.
Which I think is interesting. Instead of saving that, I guess there's not any big on-hit targets that are going to be like 7 or 8 like you would normally face like from a Guardian. So he feels, if I got the resource, might as well use it now.
Yeah, so he's got the Findos Fighting Spirit. Probably going to play that and pitch the blue ice card, keep Channel Lake out. There we go. Hypothermia, that's what that card is. Forgot the name of that for a minute. And he's ready to Arsenal. He's already moved on to his end step, take 7 damage, and let's go.
And there's no healing on this because we're tied up. I don't know if that was a consideration of maybe I shouldn't have used my arms, even if I do have the extra resource, because I want to gain a health on a card in my current hand. What's interesting is Alan's a way better player than me, so I think second guessing anything he's doing.
I think he did heal one. I think he was at 32. Yeah, he was at 32.
Oh, well, I gotta look at the top right corner every once in a while.
He just did it so fast you didn't see it happen. That's our boy Alan out there.
These people are zooming.
Now he'll wait for Jacob to ponder the choices in hand. He's got a snatch.
Because he went from 36. Okay, yeah, he was at 32.
Yeah, he's at 32.
I believe you now. Yeah. I did the math in my head. Thanks, Capolo.
Thank you. Keeping us honest out here. And there we go. Taking a bit of damage, channel that Lake Frigid, and let's see how this next turn stack up. Hopefully he has a blue, because Tunic isn't going to help him right now. That is like one of the most painful things about channel Lake Frigid, or things like Heart of Ice, where it's just like, oh, I guess my Tunic is pointless right now.
Right. But he has a blue out, so that'll help. What's going to be the play? Cool. We're going to... Heck yeah, double strike. So 1 point of damage coming in.
And we're going to pay for each point of damage.
Does he have something in his arsenal that he wants to respond to this to make it even worse for him? Or is there an attack in there?
I always forget, too, that the Tunic is a great way to break Frostbite.
So if you don't get Frost Hex,
you get that extra resources. Even if, I know Frost Hex isn't probably the win condition in this
I can still do
deck.
like 5 or 6 damage to you. And you're like,
but
what?
It's one of those things where it's like that kind of like unintuitive interaction that actually benefits you greatly if you remember to do it. But coming back in with the double strike, Wounded Bull.
Interesting block here.
Greatest generic card ever printed.
Yeah. I wish that got into more decks. Snatch for 4.
Nice.
Saying I need 2 of your cards to block this, or I'm going to draw a card.
Unfortunately, it has a card in Arsenal, so not that important of drawing a card.
No Phoenix Flame this time either, because it's so hard to do all that through a lake. I think it's Alan's trying to maybe what can I pitch 2 ice cards to do this? One will get my spell, and then the other one will probably do Waning Moon.
Yep. And
then I'll keep Channel Lake up for a 3rd turn.
Yeah, this is a perfect Channel Lake Frigid experience.
It's just a vortex Jacob's not going to get out of.
Yeah. I mean, he's holding it down there at even life, but I think when you're even life with Iyslander, you're actually a bit behind.
Right. Because I would say the good old Storm Striders represent about 5 damage in this matchup.
Mm-hmm.
So you could probably say Jacob's at 24 if you're a betting man.
Nice.
We got Bohemian Rhapsody in the back too.
Yeah, hopefully you cannot hear that music because we will get a copyright claim. So if you hear the music in the background, please let us know.
But if we start singing a little bit, it is one of our favorite songs here at the...
if we start singing, it is a parody. We're saying right now it's parody, and therefore it is fair use under the law here in America.
I think Aether Ice Vein is not what Jacobs wants to see. It's interesting Alan's running some yellows of them too. If you're paying attention to... Maybe playing Alan 4 rounds from now, seeing yellow ice veins here will be something you make him note of.
If you're in your game playing here and also watching the stream.
I'm sure there's somebody that already conceded in the back here and being like, screw this, I don't want to play my main matchup. Thanks, Capolo. I love that you can't hear the music.
Yeah. I think we did get a copyright last time. Something weird happened.
Who knows? I guess Capolo knows. Yellow ice vein sucks. He only has 1 AB. It's going to be, we don't have an energy potion to pay for it anymore. So I'm going to take 3 damage, or you pitch 1 blue to block 1 of this damage and then pay for the cost. But then you don't have the blue for your turn.
Yeah, which he's going to need for the Channel Lake Frigid. Pretty rough spot here. I feel like you probably just take the damage and then pay.
Right. I think when Jacob was figuring out, like, what's my best number 1 round that I could have? Not this.
Yeah.
He probably wanted to do about 35 damage in 3 turns, and so far, all the damage is coming his way.
Yeah, definitely an interesting matchup and really difficult, especially when the Channel Lake Frigid is out for 2.5 turns.
Right. Flow counters at 2. Hey, I got 2 ices. I'm putting them on the bottom before I do anything else. Keeps the Channel Lake around. Clean up, and good luck.
Yeah. Basically 3 turns because he got it out on Jacob's turn. So that's what you want to see as the Iyslander player and exactly what you don't want to see playing against the Iyslander.
Right.
Because, by this time, he's probably going to draw into another Channel Lake Frigid pretty soon. So,
because he's seen maybe 12 to 16 cards since his last Channel Lake Frigid. There's only 60 cards in the deck. You're running 3. That's basically right when the worst case scenario would be you draw in the next 20 cards.
Perfect distribution, which obviously always happens for your opponent and never for yourself.
Mega Monk says, why does Iyslander get Rainbow Crippling Crush?
Because it's the best thing she's got.
They're just better than you, you know? It got banned in Blitz, which I think was very interesting because maybe some of these bans in Blitz would be things that show up later for CC bans. But I think it's such a powerful win condition for Iyslander that how much can you hamper her?
Yeah. It's a really powerful card. It does require them, to have the Ice Fusion and to pay for it. So the cost of it is pretty high. I think with the Insidious Chill is really when it becomes like the most painful thing to see and honestly miserable thing to sit across from sometimes, where you just like feel so defeated to you're just like, okay, I guess I'm going to take damage. I'm going to lose all my cards and just have nothing to come back with. And then they're going to hit me on my turn again, which that's just the cycle she's playing to win.
And I think you're probably being like, why aren't you guys focusing on Jacob's turn? It's because it's not a great turn because he had to pay extra for the Ronin Renegade. Now he's having to pay to avoid discarding a card. He's also going to take damage on his own turn. Alan hasn't even blocked this card yet, but he doesn't even really need to. He could keep a full hand to try and peek him next turn, to try and get a 4th round of the same Channel Lake Frigid if he could figure that out. It's just like that. If you thought about every 5 turn in the world that Jacob's had, that's probably one of the lowest impact ones. And it's just, hey, here's my 4th Aether Ice Vein coming at you.
Just a red 2, yeah. Coming in for 5 fuse. Great ice card for the Arsenal, too. Channel Lake Frigid will be going away, but like we said, he's probably drawn into another one soon. So it's a really tough position. But I think this is a spot for Jacob to kind of come back at Alan as hard as he can next turn. He really needs to turn something on because it's only going to get worse if he gets another Channel Lake Frigid out here.
And he knows that it's going to be the blue ice card that doesn't do damage to him.
Yeah.
So I think that's Polar Cap. I think that's maybe a thing if Jacob's aware of this matchup of, okay, worst thing that can happen is a 3 damage weapon attack from the Waning Moon. So maybe it is kind of like, I'll discard a card here because I don't want to pay 2, take 5 damage, go to 17, and hopefully zoom past this pressure. But then as soon as Alan shows up with a 5th Aether Ice Vein, it's just like, can I catch a break? Earlier we were saying, I hope 5s don't catch a break. Sorry, Jacob.
It's not personal.
You're just collateral damage here.
Yeah. It's tough, man. It's where we're at in this meta. It's really interesting. Aggro can do really well, but you do have to dodge some of these matchups or get a little bit lucky and they don't draw kind of the evenly distributed hands that really can benefit Iyslander.
Because if Alan was, I didn't get my Channel Lake Frigid until turn 5, we're probably 25-18 the other way.
Yeah, so
or worse.
I think Alan just passing his turn, drawing back up, but he does have Tunic Charge, so he can get the
He gets to flip over his arsenal for free, grab another card. He'll have 5 cards to block with, and come back at him with.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a Waning Moon for 3, but here's a Light and Strike, which is an interesting card because there's 3 modes. We're gonna wonder which one they were. I'm thinking it's probably going to be Go Again.
It's got to be Go Again. It's an interesting card in Fi. I personally feel it's a little bit anti-synergistic just because you have to put a card on the bottom, which feels bad in Fi. But it can also just be a good 2-card hand.
Right.
You know,
Get
come
off
in
of
for
me,
seven,
here's 7, yeah.
or get a card for your arsenal. But yeah, Jacob just been we getting the short end of the stick here. Alan giving him that frostbite.
Alan's holding the big end of the stick this entire game.
He's like, here, do you like my stick? I'll show it to you some more.
Yeah. It's decorated with Aether Ice Veins.
It's a Vans-sponsored stick. How many times can we say stick?
Yeah. Here's a stick for 3.
Here's my magic stick.
Yeah.
Waning Moon.
I think it's interesting because Jacob's body language is just like, I thought this was going to be fun. I was excited for this. I'm on stream. Thanks for that, of documenting this game for the rest of my life.
Thanks for the round 1 stream. Round 1 stream is always the hardest. You feel bad putting people on it just because it's a little bit of extra pressure, but that's the way it goes here at Odyssey Games. We're professional. We put people on stream.
Right. He follows up the Enlightened Strike with, there's a snatch in his hand. Is he going to do it? He's forgetting that he has a frostbite though from the polar cap. Oh, he says, "Oh, my hand is hot, Garb." Dude, let's get some player 1 to really see this emotion. He's like, "Crap. Let me see if I do have the resources. I still don't. I'm gonna keep my turn going."
Give him a back rub from behind.
Yeah.
You can feel the energy.
Jacob's saying,
"Whoops.
Let's pitch to get the tunic back to do some kind of damage."
Yeah.
That is a spreading flame, right? That's what that card
spreading
looks
flames.
Like? That's low impact, but he's maybe like, can I get another arsenal card maybe that'll help me better? Maybe he's trying. No, there's no Phoenix Flame coming after this. This is through a no channel Lake Frigid turn as well. He's probably just like, what am I doing? Alan's like, cool. No emotion. Block with this.
No emotion.
Thumbs up. Let's try our best to have a good turn from me. Oh wait, no good turns from Fi today.
Yeah, this is worst case scenario. I think this is probably the biggest break Jacob's got, is just getting peaked right here.
Oh my goodness.
Which is still not fun because he doesn't have an arsenal. I feel like he might have wanted to keep that arsenal just to cut his losses and hopefully pull into a bigger.
What's the difference between 27 and 24? Yeah. I think one thing, if Peak was in other heroes, it would be one of their best options. I think it's funny that card is so good and is still like Icelander's 5th or 6th. Like, if you're not doing anything else, you might as well just Peak on.
Yeah.
Because that's basically like it's a card that says Winner's Bite. Pay 3, get a card out of your opponent's hands. It's Winner's Bite on a stick that you always have on your head.
Yeah, it's just something you can pitch to too as well, to like, for those turns where you get Channel Lake Frigid out on their turn and have 1 card left, or 2 cards that you want 1 to arsenal. Just really interesting card. I think it's fairly high skill. I think there's people who are much better at using it than myself.
Right.
And then it blocks for 2, which is just like, that's just value right there. So here we go. Back to Jacob.
We got our first belittle in hand, so maybe there's a chance where we can get through a potential ice card coming in. This is exactly what you want to see as a Fi. That sucks that it's probably the 7th turn into this game before he gets it.
Amulet Ice coming out, giving you that frostbite.
The frostbite just isn't as high impact right now because we're going to be able to go search for a blue minnowism.
Yeah.
Which will go ahead and take care of the frostbite and turn on an Emberblade. Emberblade will probably say, give me a card from your hands because you want to leverage an even higher life count. Or maybe Alan's like, bro, I'm 1 turn away from being within kill range.
Yeah.
I just got to get to the blue Emeritus, red Aether Ice Fiend combo, and that will be 4 + 5 plus a Waning Moon is 12. So Jacob is literally only 3 damage away from that. Which that math is, that's like, oh, was that hard for you to do, Blake? No, because I played Iyslander for like 6 weeks. The Iyslander people know exactly that exact damage. How can I get there? They're playing for that as soon as they get to probably turn 10.
Yeah, especially when you're sitting across from 1 AB. It makes your life so much easier as an Iyslander wizard player.
Because that 12 damage you're going to represent can only be blocked by 3. So, yeah, I'll do 9 damage and then just waning moon you the rest of the time until I win.
Yeah.
Sounds like an easy win condition almost.
I wonder if I feel like he probably should have masked right here or something. He did get the hit. Like, he's not going to have a lot of opportunity to try to push big damage. It would have gotten him that extra card. But I think Mask is also one of those harder cards if you don't play it. I'm not sure if he plays it in his regular deck. Again, this is a borrowed deck, not his normal Fi deck. So he might not be familiar with those lines, which I think are a little bit more...
Now, Alan just said, take it 3 times in a row.
Well, like you said,
so I'm going to assume there's some gross stuff coming. Aether Ice Vein number 5.
It's either 5 or 6.
He probably only has 7 in his deck.
He's just like drawing them every other turn. This is rough.
I think he has 1 more red in the deck. So that would be, I think he's done 2 blues, a yellow, and a red. This is the second red for 5 total.
And he's got that Amulet of Ice too if he just wants to like chonk his whole hand.
I think that's going to come down as like, just when you go to 15, you are probably saying you're not probably going to attack very much more at all.
Yeah.
Because Jacob's going to go from 15 to 11 because he literally cannot block this Aether Ice Vein at all, besides 1 point of damage.
Yeah. Shout out to Tiffany in the chat. When is the Scourge coming on stream? Sooner than later is my guess. You know we love Craig. We're just giving him a little break.
Yeah, when's the last time Craig O2 drops,
Yeah.
you know? Maybe it happens today at the AGE Open because it's so competitive here. You never know.
You never know, but it's likely he'll be on soon. Wrecking someone else's day via pummel and endless winter, maybe.
Jacob goes to 11 because he can't block. Waning Moon comes in for 2 more. Jacob would now have to pitch another card or go down to 9 because he used the other 2 floating to pay for the Aether Ice Vein tax. He says, here's the 1 Phoenix Flame. I don't want it in my hand. Let me put it back into my deck. Going to 10 is not a good number. With 2 cards in hand, Jacob's probably like, what the heck? Lava Burst does nothing.
Ooh. And the Amulet of Ice. Yeah. Just strip the whole hand. Take a bunch of damage. Set up your next turn.
And I don't want to say the words cruise control because I think that takes a little bit away from our players. But Alan has Blood in the Water. He's got a card in Arsenal. Jacob says, I have no cards in hand, so if you want to flip over a blue and start attacking me. But Alan says, no, thank you. I'll do it on my own turn, which is interesting.
I think he's got an attack action there.
Plus, he has... If your opponent has 1 AB, it's like, I don't need to go into your empty hand. You basically have an empty hand all the time.
Yeah. So, yeah, Wounded Bulge is coming out, so he's just going to push the big damage. I think he didn't have good spells left over, so looks like he's got something now to finish this game off, either this turn, not this turn, but next turn or his following turn. Just a rough spot. Jacob just didn't get a break this whole game. I think Alan just was in the driver's seat, able to disrupt pretty much every single turn, and that's what Iyslander is looking to do. It never works out that way for me, but I also... I'm not as good as Alan, and Alan is very good. I would think Alan's probably going to top 8. He's just that kind of player. You can count on him. He's very reliable and considerate in how he plays all his matchups.
I think that's an interesting thing that I saw in San Jose when I went to Worlds was like there are players that are just on another level, and like not that you should just revert to being a casual player, but like if you are not practicing the 20 hours a week, there are just players that you will not beat. And I think Alan's somebody that's like, you need to know his deck, you need to know where to hit him, and you need to draw the cards. And if none of those are true, Alan's going to beat you.
Yeah.
And it has not been true for Jacob today.
Yeah.
We love Jacob. Just 3 turns of Channel Lake Frigid is going to beat most Fis if they can't get around it.
I know. And it's wild, too, because we haven't seen those other ones yet. I thought we'd see one by now, but he got the value out of it that you want to see. So that has all the impact on these games. It's, it's not that the card won him the game, but the fact that he capitalized it on that card enough, was able to craft his hand so that he could pitch the amount that he needed to keep it up for that long. Of course, there's a little bit of luck involved in drawing enough ice cards to do that, but looks like
Jacob's
we
laughing.
might
He's like,
be
please
doing a
kill me.
Stormstriders situation here. Let's see.
I think what's funny too is Jacob's wearing sunglasses. He's like, I don't want anybody to see this mess. How I'm really feeling. Here's an Ice Bolt.
Nice.
One of my favorite cards in Iyslander because it just feels good because it's 2 for 3.
Mm-hmm.
I used to play the Reds. Somebody who won Worlds said don't play the Reds, so people don't anymore. But
like,
it's just
better Reds that do more damage.
Yeah, it's
to
just
the
a
same
strong
cards.
card.
It is a strong card. It's one of those. It's beautiful because it's ice and a wizard card, which there aren't actually that many of them, and for good reason, I think, because I think they're probably just above rate because they can fuse and be played from Arsenal with Iyslander. So they are very careful in releasing those cards, but they have a good impact. You know, it's basically Voltic Bolt, but icy.
And I think the writing's on the wall, but Alan is taking his time to make sure everything's guaranteed.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing you could do is pop the Stormstriders, and then your opponent plays a Oasis you never expected. I think that's a thing, too, of, like, what is expected when you show up to a brand new meta is maybe there is a list that has Oasis in 5 because they're tired of losing to Iyslander, and Iyslander gets their health super low, and then you save the Oasis to get by it. Maybe that's a way that they can do that. Maybe it's not worth it because you're just hoping to dodge Icelanders. They did not dodge Iyslander, though. They are very much not dodging it.
No. I'm curious. We'll have a metagame breakdown for you guys shortly. I guess it is ready to go. We'll look at that in a minute. We want to make sure we catch the end
Jacob's
going
to draw his final hand real quick. Here's a blue eighth. What is it called? Ice Hail.
Yeah.
Aether Hail? Yeah, blue Aether Hail. And then
it's something like that.
This is going to do 2, so you can only block 1. I think this is basically guaranteed death right here because we're going to do 1. Here's another one you can't block. And then if I have any more spells, you're dead. And he has spells in his deck.
Yeah. Just a meticulous breakdown, not getting too ahead of himself. Doesn't need to do anything reckless or pop off with his Stormstriders too soon, but I feel like this is probably going to happen on this turn. Good game, though. Nice way to start the day off. Iyslander still very good. If you were confused or not paying attention.
It's interesting because if you go to fabtwitter.com, that's not a real place, but there's just Fab Twitter. People are kind of saying that this is the best deck in format. It doesn't have any natural enemies. We see the blue Emeritus Scolding for game. Emeritus Scolding is the best blue spell from Arsenal. I think that's a thing where it doesn't do anything for your ice game plan, but it's just solid 4 damage, and that's too much for Jacob. It's a thing where that's the best.